Then, by the year 2020, the most common illness in the world is going to be depressive breakdown.
Yes, year in, year out, the number of people diagnosed with the condition is growing, but still we are reluctant to talk about it.
A breakdown is a term that psychiatrists don't actually use, but our patients use it all the time. And what it means is that period when you become so ill that you can no longer function. By far the commonest people that I see with breakdowns are the best people, the strongest people. The last person you'd expect, the person who'll always keep going, will always cope and will always help you before themselves. Celebrities tend to get breakdowns even more than the rest of us because, first of all, they tend to be good at what they do, they tend to drive themselves hard, they don't want to admit to having a problem, and if you keep going like that, eventually a fuse is going to blow.
A breakdown can affect anyone, not just celebrities, and surviving one can be a constant battle. Daniel was once an aspiring lawyer who, in his early 20s, began to struggle with the pressures of work and suddenly found himself having the first of 4 breakdowns.
Until the breakdown, I had a really happy and quite successful life. All the way through school I did well, went to Oxford to read law, got accepted into a very prestigious firm. All of a sudden, had a breakdown, and my whole life, the way I thought about life, the way I thought about people, changed completely. It's hard to tell where the illness really came from. As a student, I had several times where I hadn't felt quite well. Quite suddenly, I started feeling as if I couldn't cope. And what was worse, I felt I couldn't concentrate on my work. I was getting thoughts of blackness, wanting to sleep, wanting to stay in bed, not realising I was depressed. This went on for several months. And it was at that time things became really difficult and I had to go into hospital for the first time. And that was about 20 years ago, when I was 25.
A major depressive breakdown is not feeling sad and unhappy. It's not how you or I feel on a Monday morning. It's something terrible. It's falling down a well with no bottom to it. It's overwhelming blackness and hopelessness. It's a terrible condition. Don't think that you understand it just because you felt depressed. It's an experience that you never want to have.
Daniel had no idea he was heading for a breakdown, and like anyone experiencing one, he felt lost, confused and unsure of where to turn.
There was little I felt I could do, and it was as if the illness just washed over me as such, and I didn't know how to cope. Sometimes I thought my parents might not stand by me. When I was in hospital, at times I thought I'd been locked away and they wanted me locked away. And so I thought they were my deadly enemies. They used to come and visit me, and I used to do what I call the difficult patient ploy. I used to palm them off on the most difficult of patients to talk to, and you used to, well, not quite disown them, but leave them talking. And the reason I did that, I thought, well, you want me locked up, you want me put away in this place, so when you come, at least you're going to experience what I have to go through.
When Daniel was really ill, he didn't take any notice of us, and he ignored us. He wanted to see us on one hand, but on the other hand, you know, he would walk away.
I felt very disappointed. I didn't voice my opinion to him. I felt rather put out because for his whole life up to that time, I thought he could progress very nicely into a decent career.
I think my parents were disappointed in the sense that they'd hoped I would succeed in what I'd tried to do originally, which was study and then go on and be a solicitor. I think mainly they were disappointed for me rather than being disappointed for themselves.
Like anyone who's recovered from a breakdown, Daniel found it hard to accept that his life would be very different from before, and his dream of being a lawyer would be almost impossible to achieve.
Before I went into hospital, and when I was at Oxford, I had so many offers of jobs. But when I came out of hospital, it was so hard to get a job. The people who saw me were obviously not interested. Now, maybe I made the mistake of telling them I'd been mentally ill, but I decided to tell the truth for various reasons. So, in that sense, I'm sure there was prejudice. My aim these days, my main aim is keeping well. And that's still a form of trying to cope and lead some semblance of a normal life. On the whole, I am proud of how I've coped with my breakdown. I think avoiding a breakdown has become one of the central parts of my life. I dread, from that point of view, having another breakdown, having to go into hospital like that again. I dread it. I've got to the stage, I fear it so much, I don't even want to think about it, which is a bit silly really, but I try not to face it. And the fact that in the last 15 years I've only had one admission to hospital, I think is a level of success.